robbery spree in the West End and then a robbery at Yorkdale Mall. This was the scene inside the mall just in the last hour as stores were told to close. Hundreds of shoppers were then escorted outside. Toronto police have told us one person is under arrest while 3 other suspects are on the run, adding the suspects used a hammer to smash jewelry displays. Now, police are also investigating whether there is any connection to a spree of robberies just prior, also in the city's West End, all at pharmacies with drugs and cash stolen. It all started at West Mall in Bloor. A woman in her 70s was assaulted there. Then police reported a robbery at Rexdale Plaza. And third, a robbery at Elmhurst Plaza. The 4 suspects were reported to be wearing ski masks and had handguns. Police say one of the 4 suspects has been arrested. We will, of course, continue to follow this story for you. The mall has now reopened. Now to the day's other top stories.
Reverend Sky, we found him! And my gosh, everybody was jumping. I was crying. Everybody was crying, was rejoicing, just happy, that he was safe.
A 14-year-old boy found alive in a Brampton barn almost 40 hours after he was abducted as retribution, police say, for a $4 million drug debt owed by his stepbrother. The 14-year-old boy, who was the subject of an Amber Alert, is now at home with his mom and dad, but his kidnappers are still on the loose. Police are also searching for his stepbrother. Lorenda Redekop has more on what we've learned and reaction from his community.
I just want to hug him first. Before anything else, I just want to hug him, let him know that he's loved.
Reverend Sky Starr can't wait to see the 14-year-old boy. She leads a young achievers group he's in. It met last night without him, when the Amber Alert was still in effect.
See this black spot on the road?
The Jeep he was forced into had already been found, torched in a rural area.
First of all, we thought about canceling the group, and I said, no, you cannot cancel the group, because these kids they're scared. A lot of them are upset or confused. They don't know what's happening. People were crying. Some of the advisors were crying. It's okay, and I'm saying everybody, hey, it's okay to cry. It's okay to feel.
Hours later, news that he was found, safe.
And my gosh, everybody was jumping. I was crying. Everybody was crying. It was rejoicing, just happy, that he was safe.
The police chief says the teen was found in an abandoned barn near Brampton.
He appeared to be disheveled at that time, was taken to a medical facility for a checkup. He's now safe with his mom and dad, and we have yet to interview him.
Police haven't made any arrests. They say the boy was kidnapped because of a drug debt by his older stepbrother. A 100-kilo cocaine deal worth $4 million. The chief says police have had limited contact with the brother and don't know where he is.
Right now, the role he would play is a witness, and he would have a strong idea of who is involved and what the involvement was.
Another side of this, the boy missed school Wednesday, but that wasn't reported to his parents until after 6 p.m. The school board investigation continues with 4 staff members on home assignment. A board spokesperson couldn't say how long that investigation might take, but he says it will include a larger look at how often attendance reports don't make it in on time.
If that were my child, I would be in a state right now.
She's thinking about his healing.
What he has showed us in class is that he has the resilience. I mean, we all have it, but he's got that. He's special. He's special. Yeah, and he's safe for a special reason.
That says the police chief is appealing to anyone with more information about who's responsible.
There are people, and this is who I'm appealing to, there are people out there that definitely know what went on.
Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
Another day, another unbelievable video of a driver using the sidewalk as a road in Toronto. The exclusive story behind this coming up in about 10 minutes. The number of cases of COVID-19 passed 100,000 today, just over 2 months since word of a mysterious virus circulating in China first emerged.
We continue to call on countries to find, test, isolate, and care for every case and to trace every contact.
Worldwide, the number of deaths from the disease is now close to 3,500, while China continues to see a declining number of new cases. South Korea, Italy, Iran, and Germany are each seeing hundreds of new infections every day. The WHO is particularly concerned about the increase in lower-income countries with weaker health systems. Ontario now has 27 COVID-19 cases after 5 more were confirmed today. One of the new Toronto patients, a man in his 40s, recently returned from Las Vegas, and he took public transit on 3 separate occasions earlier this week while he was sick. Chris Glover joins us live from one of the stations he used. And Chris, officials say the risk of transmission from this man is low, but they are releasing these details out of an abundance of caution.
Yes, that's exactly right. So public health says that this man started his transit trips here at Bathurst Station each of these mornings at the beginning of March around 9 a.m. and he completed his trips at the end of the day at Bathurst Station as well. But they say that because of the way the virus is believed to spread and also because so many precautions have already been taken through the TTC, they do not believe that anybody is at great risk of having transmitted the disease from him.
No handshakes at the COVID-19 press conference today in Toronto.
Late last night, my team and I learned.
But major news was broken. Toronto's 2 new confirmed cases of the virus are at home in self-isolation. But
the man in his 40s had symptoms from March the 2nd to March the 4th and used public transit daily.
The city's chief medical officer went into great detail about the routes he took. Still, she says the risk of transmission is low.
The information that I'm providing you with is provided in an abundance of caution.
The Transit Authority says nightly hospital-grade vehicle cleanings have been happening for more than a month.
Did you spend any extra attention on the vehicles that would have been on those routes to disinfect and clean them?
So one of the things that I'm going back with her and her staff to have a discussion about, where are those times, what are the vehicles that would likely run? We're just fortunate that we already had pre-initiated the deep cleansing every night of vehicles before they go out.
The really good news in Toronto, so far patients here have not been infected randomly in the community.
Non-stop surveillance and contact tracing right here in Ontario and Toronto have certainly been effective in preventing community transmission thus far.
Still, some hospitals are planning COVID-19 screening centers in case the spread of the virus intensifies.
There has been very limited number of cases in Ontario right now, so to have built these a month ago wouldn't have made sense in terms of the need in the community. As we start to see the number of cases increase in Ontario, we want to really be prepared.
Despite these latest cases, the mayor has a message for the city.
We must not give in to either complacency or to panic. Calm must prevail.
And so even with these latest cases, the TTC says there has been no disruption to the service. And they also say that the things are continuing as far as ridership, the same as they were before. But they decided to release the routes that this man would have taken. And if you would like to see the routes that they took, even though the risk of transmission was low, you can see which buses and which services he took by going onto our website at cbc.ca/Toronto.
It's still good to have that information, Chris. Now, the TTC and the union representing transit workers seem to be at odds over whether employees should have masks.
Yeah, so some workers have said that they would like to wear the masks, but public health says that would not be effective. Essentially, the masks are best to be worn by people who already have the virus. But if you're sick already, better than wearing a mask in public, you should just stay home.
Thank you, Chris. One of the largest conferences in Toronto has been canceled due to the coronavirus concerns. The Collision Conference was set to be held in June, but organizers say it will now be live streamed instead. As Kelda Ewan reports, this comes as the TDSB and local travel agencies also deal with the impact of the virus.
It's one of the largest tech conferences, bringing together tens of thousands of people from all over the world.
It's an important one. It's a big one for our city.
Andrew Weir from Tourism Toronto says it's too early to say exactly how much of an impact the cancellation will have, but it won't be small.
Meetings and conventions and business events, as we call them, are a big part of the visitor economy. So it accounts for about $880 million in spending in the city. So when you take one of the largest meetings of the year out of that mix, it definitely has an impact.
Collision organizers said their decision was made out of an abundance of caution, tweeting, postponing a 30,000-person tech conference with attendees from 125 countries and running it online instead is the socially responsible thing to do.
That is not so much a decision that's been made that's about Toronto as it is a situation that's been made about an international situation.
Travel agencies in the city are also being affected, of course. G Adventures, right here behind me, has canceled all its trips to China and South Korea and is trying to accommodate all the rebookings.
There are certain areas that if they're not comfortable going to, they're going to start traveling to other areas. And that's what we're seeing, right? Some clients may be canceling off certain trips, but rebooking onto other trips where, we're not seeing so many problems.
Cook says while the company is seeing a bit of a slowdown overall, there has been a rise in travel to some countries.
We are seeing good growth in places like Central America, Costa Rica, South America, Peru.
The TDSB, meanwhile, announced today it has canceled school trips to Europe.
We have a number, I think about 14 European trips scheduled for March break.
Besides the Collision Conference, there are more than 100 other international conferences slated to be held in Toronto this year. There have been no other cancellations so far.
It's a very fluid situation. We're watching daily, hourly, as everyone else is. Each individual meeting planner is going to make their own decision based on the nature of the delegates, the nature of the meeting. As long as the public health authorities are advising that it's safe to continue meeting here and visiting, then that's exactly what we're going to encourage people to do.
Kelda Yoon, CBC News, Toronto.
Online version of it, but I know they want to get.
Thousands of people, including more than 200 Canadians, remain stuck on a cruise ship quarantined off the coast of California because of fears of coronavirus. Yesterday, the California Air National Guard delivered testing kits to the Grand Princess. Tonight, there's word 21 people on board have tested positive for COVID-19. The ship will be brought to port and all passengers and crew will be tested. The Grand Princess was ordered to hold its position off the coast after a traveler from a previous voyage died of the disease and others became infected. Now, do you still have questions about the coronavirus? Well, tonight at 8 p.m. on CBC News Network, we'll be answering them. Send your questions to askcbc@cbc.ca. That is happening tonight at 8 p.m. on CBC News Network. A family in Scarborough is calling for change after nearly getting hit by a truck that mounted the sidewalk in front of their home. The incident had a mother and her young child facing off against a pickup truck. Nick Bovera has this exclusive video and why the family says Toronto isn't doing enough to keep pedestrians safe.
It was Tuesday morning and Lana Lelchuk and her 4-year-old son were starting their walk to school.
I just saw her revving over the ice bank right onto the sidewalk.
A few days later, Lelchuk is still in disbelief. She provided the video exclusively to CBC, where she also works as a makeup artist.
I freaked out. It was just instinct, and I think I got carried away and I whapped my bag on her truck.
Her son, Ollie, understands.
Yelled at the truck.
Why did she yell at the truck, Ollie?
Because she drive on the sidewalk.
And that scared you, right?
Yeah.
It was a close call, but not the first time the family has seen a vehicle climb onto their curb. This year alone, Lelchuk says it's happened at least 3 times. She reported the latest one, but police haven't confirmed they're investigating.
Do you feel like the city is doing enough to protect pedestrians?
Not at all. Not even one bit. I don't see police patrolling. I don't see them ticketing. I don't see any sign of police.
The encounter happened on the same day that another sidewalk driver was captured on video, that one in the city's West End.
Any person who lives in the city, anytime they leave their home, if they're watching, will see something like this.
Road safety advocates say the videos show the growing aggression of some Toronto drivers.
We have a culture in this city that says that, every square inch of our streets is the sole and exclusive use of a car.
But the city is examining some new initiatives to improve safety, including money for new red light cameras and a proposal to limit right turns on reds at some intersections. Those ideas might not help here, where driver behavior seems to be the biggest challenge.
I just think people just need to be more patient, because at the end of the day, it's a human life you're talking about.
Nick Boisvert, CBC News, Toronto.
Everybody's working for the weekend, Colin. What is it going to be like?
Well, I'll tell you, we are kind of back to reality today with our temperatures and our conditions in terms of this time of year. But the weekend is going to be fantasy land again, where we're going to see temperatures way above seasonal. Not so much for Saturday, but that's really what's coming for Sunday. And I'm going to have a lot more on that coming up. For now, this is the reality of what we're seeing with our temperatures. We're at 1. Daytime high at this time of year is just between 1 and 2, kind of hovering between closer to 2, and that's about where we were for our daytime high. But what you can also see illustrated nicely here is how close these temperatures are to the freezing mark. In fact, you're right at it there in Hamilton. So now when I show you what precipitation is left, you can kind of understand why we're seeing it in different forms. So some rain showers here where we've got that temperature just a little bit milder, a little milder air, some light flurry activity. It's very wet flurries and very light in nature. And then areas close to the shoreline where we're really seeing a bit of a mix. But we're getting on the back side of this as it continues to push to the south and kind of towards the east. It will be moving through in the next couple of hours. We'll see things drying out, and then after that we're going to see things clearing out. And with that clearing trend, it is going to make for a cool overnight tonight and start to the day on Saturday, but it also sets us up for a lot of sun for Saturday. A little cloud cover into cottage country later on, or maybe into our skies in the late afternoon and evening. But even Sunday looking like we'll have sunshine, but that's the day when the much milder air pushes in. So the readings look like this: overnight tonight -8, 4 tomorrow afternoon. Dwight, I can't wait to show you some of the numbers in the long range.
Oh, we are looking forward to it. Thank you, Colette.
You're welcome.
The weather update is brought to you by Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train.
The union representing public high school teachers is pausing its rotating strike starting next week. The Ontario Secondary School Teachers Federation says it's making the move to minimize the disruption to student activities during March break. The union has been holding regular rotating strikes since late last year, but starting Monday, it will instead expand a work to rule campaign it's been engaged in since November. There are no talks scheduled between the union and the government. The Ontario Liberal Party is all set to choose its new leader. They've gathered at a leadership convention in Mississauga. Queen's Park reporter Mike Crawley joins us live from the convention center there. And Mike, it looks like it's a clear front-runner.
Dwight, that front-runner is Stephen Del Duca, the former transportation minister. He has roughly half of the delegates already committed to him, and that puts him far ahead of the other 5 candidates. Supporters greet Stephen Del Duca, almost certain to become the next leader of the Ontario Liberal Party.
So I learned a long time ago from my parents there are no shortcuts to success. It's all about hard work and dedication, never being complacent.
Del Duca has locked up more than triple the delegates of his nearest rival.
Stephen's going into the convention with a big advantage.
The first ballot is already underway. Tomorrow morning, all 6 candidates will deliver speeches to the delegates. By random draw, Del Duca will go first and says he will mention the current premier.
I think there's a very important contrast for Ontario Liberals and for everybody in this province who does believe in progress to draw against the performance of Doug Ford.
All the Liberals gathered here know the size of the task the party is facing. 2018 was the worst election result in the party's history. The Liberals need a total rebuild to be ready for a campaign again in 2 years.
It's a huge opportunity for new candidates and for the party, but it's also a very big hill to climb. You know, we've got money to raise, we've got volunteers to put in place, we have riding association by riding association we need to be getting ready, and I know that whoever the leader is, that's the work that they'll be doing.
Del Duca insists he's up for the job.
We're not going to stop working until the ballots are counted here this weekend, and if I'm successful, we'll keep working starting Monday.
The New Democrats have already prepared their attack lines on the likely leader.
Mr. Del Duca will be a very quick and easy reminder about why people rejected the Liberals for their behaviours in the last 15 years.
Now, tonight, the Liberals give a tribute to the former Premier Kathleen Wynne. Tomorrow morning, there are speeches by all 6 of the candidates, and then the first ballot is counted. We're told to expect a result just before 2 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. Dwight?
Thank you, Mike. Still ahead, the latest in our investigation looking at stopping domestic violence.
And whenever I did put on makeup, it was simply to hide bruises.
There aren't enough supports in the community, and we are seeing that turn into horrible headlines where women have been murdered by their partner.
Experts say recent immigrants are among the most vulnerable when it comes to being victims of domestic violence. After the break, we speak with a woman who survived an abusive relationship. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Domestic abuse, unfortunately, happens to women from all backgrounds and income levels, but experts say recent immigrants are among the most vulnerable. Those newcomers often lack supports, and the organizations trying to help them are nearing a breaking point. Lauren Pelly has been looking into this for us as part of our ongoing series, Stopping Domestic Violence, and she has more for us tonight. Lauren.
Well, across the GTA, there were 16 domestic homicides in 2019, according to our analysis. And Peel Region hit a record for the most deaths, 7 in total, since the police force started tracking those numbers 4 years ago. And there's growing concern that many of these women are new immigrants in Canada who often need more support. We spoke to one woman who tried to flee violence after moving here, but she wasn't sure where to turn.
He hit me, he slapped me, he threw me on the ground, he kicked me.
That's the level of abuse this woman says her husband subjected her to in their tiny apartment after they moved to Canada from India. CBC News has agreed to protect her identity for safety reasons. One night in 2018, she says her husband beat her and threatened to kill her.
I went into a complete state of shock because I had no means of survival here.
She says she managed to escape and an acquaintance took her in.
And whenever I did put on makeup, it was simply to hide bruises.
Fleeing domestic violence is an experience Samra Zafar can relate to. She wrote a memoir about leaving an abusive marriage and is now an advocate for others. She says newcomers to Canada often lack support networks and might stay in abusive relationships until it's too late.
They have no independence, no money of their own, no access to networks, no friends. So where do they go? Like, for me, I came here as a kid. I had no friends of my own. Like, yeah, the door was open, I could walk out, but then what?
In those cases, she says women wind up trapped.
When you are isolated and you don't have community and you feel a sense of shame and stigma and, you know, your family's threatening to abandon you because you've done something so wrong, it is so debilitating.
So get along means, what's the meaning?
This organization in Peel Region offers language classes and legal support for immigrants, including more than 1,400 victims of domestic abuse last year alone.
We're getting closer and closer to a breaking point where we're not going to be able to serve, and that doors will be closed.
The organization's CEO says more services like this are essential.
There aren't enough supports in the community, and we are seeing that turn into horrible headlines where women have been murdered by their partner. And that is something that must stop, and all levels of government and agencies must work together to help prevent.
In this woman's case, she's still struggling to build a new life in Toronto, but says at least she feels a newfound sense of freedom.
I can breathe air without guilt, without headaches, without being assaulted.
Now, there are many organizations across the GTA that are working tirelessly to help these newcomer women who are coping with domestic violence. And tomorrow night, we'll be shining a light on a few of those groups and how they're trying to save lives. Dwight?
Thank you, Lauren. Now remember, if you are in a bad situation, here are ways you can get help. You can call the Assaulted Women's Helpline at 1-866-863-0511 or text pound 7233 on any Rogers, Fido, Bell, or Telus phone. Also remember, if you are in immediate danger, always call 911. After the break, why your cell phone bill could soon shrink.
My monthly bill is usually around $250.
I was paying almost $400 a month.
We anticipate this will benefit approximately 40% of Canadians.
The Trudeau government says they are making good on a campaign promise warning Canada's 3 biggest wireless providers to slash their basic prices in 2 years or else. That story coming up next. Back to our top story now. We have an update for you. Police have several suspects in custody after a string of robberies around the city. 4 males believed to be armed with handguns hit 3 spots in Rexdale. Officers were first called to West Mall Bloor Plaza before 4 p.m. after 4 males believed to be teens armed with handguns robbed a pharmacy. The store was robbed of drugs and money, and a woman in her 70s was assaulted. A second pharmacy was hit soon after at the Rexdale Commercial Center. Then a third pharmacy on Islington Avenue, just north of Highway 401, was also held up. Now, police are investigating whether those robberies are connected to a robbery at Yorkdale. A store inside the mall was robbed by 4 teens wearing masks. 4 suspects now in custody, and police are trying to determine if they are connected to all 4 robberies. Canadians pay some of the highest prices in the world for cell phone plans, up to 40% more than Americans in some cases. Now, the federal government says it has a plan of its own to slash cell phone bills. Jacqueline Hansen explains how.
You're not ready for my phone bill.
Wow. In Canada, big cell phone bills are easy to find.
My monthly bill is usually around $250.
I was paying almost $400 a month.
The federal Liberals campaigned on making them cheaper.
A re-elected Liberal government will cut cell phone bills by 25%.
We also have transparency measures.
Now, it's seeing that through. A government-imposed 25% price cut will apply to the big 3 carriers for plans of between 2 and 6 gigabytes. For example, the government says a 2 gigabyte plan that currently costs $50 per month would need to drop to $37.50.
We anticipate this will benefit approximately 40% of Canadians.
But in a statement, TELUS said it is extremely disappointing to see that the 25% decreases are limited to the national carriers. And Bell warned that policies discouraging investment, including regulating wireless pricing, put jobs and innovation at risk. But some consumer advocates believe Ottawa could have done more.
Could they have done deeper cuts? Certainly.
According to data released by the government, prices have already been falling over the past couple of years.
We expect them to be able to both handle these price reductions because they aren't really that difficult for them, and I don't believe they'll actually follow through and pull out their investments.
And some Canadians' data demands already far exceed a 6 gigabyte plan.
2 to 6 gigs doesn't even sound like it. I would imagine that most people are, especially in the streaming world, going to be over that number.
If the carriers don't meet the targets within 2 years, the government says it will consider other options, including taking steps to increase competition. Jacqueline Hansen, CBC News, Toronto.
Ontario's finance minister touting new job numbers today, in particular growth in the manufacturing sector.
Statistics Canada announced this morning that employment in Ontario changed by 3,200 in February. And since June 2018, employment in Ontario has risen by over 300,000 people. Numbers.
Fidelity adds nearly 15,000 jobs were created in manufacturing in Ontario. He also addressed concern over the coronavirus, saying it's too early to assess the economic impact it will have on the province. Today was the grand opening of a new rental home community in North York.
This is more than just about building homes. It's about building communities. It is about making sure that these homes are energy efficient and that they're accessible. That these homes are also close to schools, to public transit, to jobs and other community services.
A total of 514 new rental units opened up at Casa Emery Village near Finch and Weston. Half of the units will be rented at $1,600 a month or lower. It's all part of a national housing strategy encouraging rental housing across the country. And Colette, we saw a snow-covered immigration minister there, but it didn't last long this afternoon.
No, a lot of that melting right on the ground is hard for it to stick around, a bit of a mix. Some areas where we are seeing things looking pretty good are some of our ski hills, and there's some night skiing going on tonight. So there's plenty of areas where things are in good shape. The city, all right, it's not really hanging around, but look at some of these temperatures we're seeing right around the freezing mark, just a little above. St. Catharines at 2 degrees, you're doing a little better. We were there earlier this afternoon, but now Toronto dropping down to 1, and you're just at 0 there in Hamilton. And that's why with those temperatures so close to that freezing, Mark, we're seeing different types of precipitation. Some of the rain showers, in most cases around the GTA, what's left, it's scattered, it's light in nature, and it's coming down to some light snow or some flurries, but a few areas where you're still getting it kind of mixing in with rain showers, especially the closer you are to the lakeshore. Main system well off the eastern seaboard there. This is just kind of the backside of it. It's all moving away from us, and we're getting into this nice clearing trend tonight. So that is going to be good in terms of what the setup is for Saturday with sunshine, but it does allow things to get a little cool overnight tonight. So temperatures drop down to lows closer to seasonal. So a chilly start to the day tomorrow, but that high pressure is what's really ensuring some of the sunshine that we're going to have through the day on Saturday. And that real push of mild air is going to be coming closer to Sunday. As we see that moving in, that's when the temperatures are going to be soaring, getting up to high single digits, and then eventually by Monday into the double digits. But by Monday, it comes with some showers, and then the cold front will swing through. So we'll probably see Tuesday as kind of a transition day in terms of our temperatures, and they'll start to be mild at first, but then start to come down through the day with some of that wet weather turning maybe into a little mix again as we go into Tuesday night and Wednesday. Here you are tonight with your overnight lows, but just keeping in mind enough of a wind out there so you have that wind chill. It feels like we're in the minus teens. Tomorrow afternoon, beautiful day, beautiful day. Temperatures a couple degrees above seasonal. They just get way up there as we go to the second half of the weekend. So there you are, 9 degrees on Sunday. We'll see more cloud cover. We'll lose an hour because we put our clocks ahead Saturday night before you go to bed. Monday with the showers, that's when we get to 11 degrees. And then Tuesday, things start to change back over, Dwight. So we go from 9 down to 2 and a little mix or some flurries coming back on Wednesday. So Wednesday looks a lot like today did.
Thank you, Colette.
You're welcome.
This weather update is brought to you by Fairmont Le Chateau Frontenac, the best location for your next spring break getaway in Quebec City.
After the break, a frank conversation about getting older.
It was shocking standing at a counter and realizing that they're going to wait on everybody else around you because you don't exist somehow.
We speak to two women in their 70s and 80s who are part of a group called Project Timeless about how they are embracing the latter part of their lives. Stay with us. We'll be right back. A group of women is hoping to embrace everything that comes with getting older, making sure their voices are heard no matter their age. We met a couple of the women involved in the Timeless Project.
I keep mine off on purpose.
Right. Oh. There's always a little adrenaline shot. Do you know what I mean when you're doing something like this?
I was apprehensive at the beginning, you know.
Oh, why?
I don't know. I just was thinking, I want to put everything out there, you know.
It's one of those projects where there's nothing wrong with it. Like there's no downside to the Timeless Project. I have to say, you have invisible moments as you start to age. Mine started around 50. Took me a while to own my aging. I mean, I like my gray hair now. And it was shocking standing at a counter and realizing that they're gonna wait on everybody else around you because you don't exist somehow.
Maybe around about 60, I would say I started feeling, I don't know if it's completely saying that you were invisible, but just that felt that you were not there. I'm a little feisty, you know. I usually push myself and say, I'm going to do it. I don't care what you think about me, but I'm going to do it. You know? Hi there. My name is Rami Veerapan, and I'm from the Timeless Project. I am 85 years old, and I love my life.
Hi, I'm Molly Peacock. I'm 72 years old from the Timeless Project. I wrote a book about a woman who started her life's work at 72. That's how I got involved in this project, and it's fun to be here. How have you maintained your feistiness?
One of the things I do, I love dancing. I am a dancer. I love the line dancing, and I am there every Tuesday. I dance as if nobody's watching me. I just get onto the floor, and I can dance, I'm not kidding you, from 10 o'clock till 3 in the morning. And I don't stop.
One of the things about aging and invisibility is that you have to reclaim your physical presence in the world. When you dance, you have to own your space.
Yes.
When I'm swinging that racket, I have to own my space. And one of the fun things, like your line dancing, is that I've reconnected with a sport that I did when I was 12, which is I play badminton. And I play twice a week.
Yes. Do you hate that when people say what a cute little old lady?
And that bugs the hell out of me, excuse me. I get so angry because
I know.
a cute old lady, it's very derogatory. I find it's a kind of derogatory.
I become furious. I'm furious that I'm being so condescended to. Like, do you think I don't have a brain? People ignore you less if you have a physical presence. If you just have good posture, people find it hard to ignore you. Again, it's that sense of I have to own who I am. This is who I am,
Yes.
and this is what I am, and I'm not going to be ignored.
When you're aging, and when if you don't want them to see that you're invisible, you have to come in with this. I am me. You take me as I am. I am strong. I am powerful. I know how young people feel because I was there.
We need a new coach, Jack. You're the first person I thought of.
Is the team any good?
No.
In fact, the last time they made the playoffs, back when you were playing.
Ben Affleck is back on the big screen in his latest film, The Way Back. The sports drama follows a former basketball star who lost his way. But will he find his way to an all-star review from Eli? Find out after the break.
What's going on with you? What's new?
Not much.
Hate the idea of you down there by yourself all the time. Just drinking.
I'm fine.
Ben Affleck returns to the big screen in his latest sports drama, The Way Back. The now sober star plays an alcoholic construction worker who is recruited to become the head basketball coach at his old high school. Eli Glasner is here with his review of this film, and this film somehow reflects on Ben's real life, Eli.
Well, you may have noticed he's been doing a bit of a media tour lately, and he's been talking very openly about his life and his own struggle with alcoholism, how that actually led to his divorce with Jennifer Gardner. And lo and behold, here he is with something to promote, The Way Back, where he plays an alcoholic who sees his life falling apart and gets a chance to coach. But I don't know if it's that cynical. I think it's an opportunity for Ben as an actor and for us as an audience. Yeah, this is formulaic, and I've seen these kind of films before, but, you know, the little details in this movie are what really captured my attention. Starts off, we see him as a construction worker. He gets in the truck. First thing he does, he takes that beer can, he pours it into a big cup of soda. And so, like, that's his day. Gets up in the morning, you see him in the shower, beer can where the soap should be. So it's that kind of life until he gets a call from his past, from his old high school. Let's take a look.
We need a new coach, Jack. You're the first person I thought of.
Is the team any good?
No.
In fact, the last time we made the playoffs, back when you were playing.
It's the whole team? 10 kids?
That is the whole team. And the thing about Jack is, well, he used to be an all-star player, could have gone to college, had a full scholarship. Life got in the way, so he goes out, meets the kids, and even though he's not the most impressive guy, you see he's got a mind for the game. Take a look at this interaction with Marcus, who's a bit of a showboat, and Jack kind of puts him in his place.
You're the tallest player on the team. Oh. Makes me wonder why you're putting three-pointers up every time you come down the court.
Ask Coach Dan. I made the most threes on the team last year.
Coach Dan, how many threes did Marcus make last year?
Made 34.
Out of how many attempts?
Out of 130.
26%, Marcus. You want to know why they're leaving you open? It's because they don't think you could hit the ocean from the beach.
All right, it's a good zinger. And so, like, almost like even though he can't help himself, he gets involved, starts helping these kids, and they start helping him for a while.
So do you think his personal battles with sobriety helped him in this film? Added it to it some way?
Undoubtedly. Look, I mean, I think this provided an opportunity. I think it could have been therapeutic, maybe some catharsis. Look, you see him there at the basketball. It's interesting. He actually relapsed before they started making the movie. He went into rehab. Jennifer Garner called the director and said, wait for him. He needs this movie. He brought a basketball with him into rehab and then went from that into the film where a sober liaison actually brought him to set. So this is real, this is raw for Ben, and I think you see that in the performance. When I watch this, I see someone who has a shadow on his soul. I see someone who is carrying this weight, and then he starts working with these kids, and a different kind of Jack appears. So I want to show you two different sides. First, we'll see a timeout during a game. Actually, we don't have that clip. I'm going to move on. I'll show you the second clip. So there he is, coaching, doing the coach thing, calling the plays. It's great. But I want to show you one last clip where you really see, I mean, I think this is where Ben isn't pretending anymore. He is pulling on real experiences. You hear him telling the team, giving them kind of this pep talk during a critical match. They're playing a team. They're monsters. They're faster. They're taller. And yet he's going to give them some instructions, but I think something real cracks through. Take a listen and listen to how his voice cracks.
Truth is, they're more talented than you. Probably got a better coach. But I promise you, they are not a better team. Because they haven't been through what we've been through. They don't know adversity. They don't know what it's like to get knocked down, to have to get back up again. They don't know what it is to fight.
And you hear that moment where his voice kind of catches a little, and like, yeah, as an actor you pretend, but I think what he's pulling on, what his fuel for that performance isn't that far from the surface, and it is a remarkable performance from Ben Affleck. The only thing I would change about this film is an hour and 26 minutes in, I would suggest you put on your coat, get up and leave. There's another 20 minutes. You don't really need that 20 minutes. Kind of overstays its welcome. So that's why I get 3.5 stars out of 5.
Sound like my wife. She always says that I should have edited this film.
Yeah, exactly. Right there, right? As it's one of those things where you watch the movie, you're like, and, oh, it's still going.
Thanks, Eli.
You're
Happy
welcome.
Friday, buddy. Henri Richard, the Montreal Canadiens legend and Hockey Hall of Famer, has died. Richard played for the Habs for 20 years, joining the team in 1955 when his big brother Maurice Rocket Richard was still playing. While his brother got more goals, Henri, the Pocket Rocket, was a brilliant playmaker and was integral to 11 Stanley Cup winning teams, scoring 2 cup-winning goals. He retired in 1975. His jersey raced to the rafters at the Montreal Forum. Richard was diagnosed with Alzheimer's 5 years ago. He's survived by his wife, 5 children, and their families. Henri Richard was 84. Though since he was born on a leap year day, you could say he was and always will be 21. Stay with us. We'll be right back. The sari has been worn by South Asian women for centuries. It is something one GTA woman has been on a mission now to modernize, and she's turned it into a full-time job. Nanaba Duncan spoke to Tia Buva about where she started and how it led her to create what she calls yoga pants for saris.
As I was shooting these pictures, because I wasn't really moving around, I was just posing for a picture, I would wear yoga pants under the sari. And I was comfortable, it wasn't something I dreaded. And my husband, who unwillingly, but I convinced him to take these pictures, would always ask me, why don't you just wear the yoga pants to these weddings and these events that you never like wearing the regular underskirt to? And I was like, well, that's not gonna work because the yoga pants has a wide band, and as soon as you tuck a sari in, it'll come undone as soon as you start moving, right? So when I was posing, it was fine, but as soon as I started moving, it would come undone. And then so he was like, well, why don't you just get a skirt in the same material that has a drawstring waist, and then you could just wear that. And it didn't exist, so I created it. This is what my grandma, my mom, and a lot of women of today wear.
Okay.
It's one size fits all, but it flatters no one.
Because of the bunching? Like
because of the bunching, it's
like,
just a straight, yeah. It's just a straight cut. There's a lot of extra fabric that you don't, I mean, the sari already is 6 yards. You don't need any more fabric underneath. So what that skirt does is it allows you to have a good base to work with so that no matter what drape you do on top with the sari,
And the silhouette is important, isn't it?
It's so important.
I'm wearing this beautiful color. I love it. And I get it. Like, it feels really comfortable. I would wear this on my own, just like around the house. But what I'm really interested in is this drawstring. It's really strong, and I imagine that's very important.
So important. So it's basically holding together 6 yards of fabric. And we're going to do it in the nivy drape, which is very popular in the South. But if you were to Google a picture of a sari, the nivy drape is what will come up. So it's pleats in the front, very similar to those two. Pleats in the front with with the end of the fabric over your left shoulder. Want to look at yourself in the eye?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Oh my God! It's amazing! I love it. I absolutely love it. It's gorgeous. People who are not South Asian buying this?
Yes. A lot of them message me to say, hey, would it be wrong for me to wear a sari? Would it be wrong for me to purchase from you? And my personal opinion is that if they're taking the time to research and, follow someone like me who I, show the drapes. Like, buying a sari and draping it like a toga and going to a toga party, that would be disrespectful. But taking the time to really understand how to wear the garment, what the garment is about, what its history is, what its significance is, and just educating themselves before wearing, I think that is the most respect you can give any culture or any tradition.
Certainly is a beautiful garment. Here was one of the panelists last night talking about women-run businesses. You can watch that discussion. Just head to facebook.com/CBC Toronto. Now we need to talk to you about this warm-up and then this cold and this roller coaster ride that we're actually having fun this winter because it has been kind of fun.
And we didn't even pay for this ride, and here we're on it. Yeah, wintry weather right now is moving out this evening. We clear out overnight, but it is going to be cold. So overnight tonight, it's going to feel seasonal. We're going down to -8. However, tomorrow, lots of sunshine, 4 degrees into the afternoon. It's really going to be a nice Saturday. It's just as we get into the second half of the weekend, Dwight, we're going to see those temperatures going up to highs around 10, 11 degrees. So
and
double
we are
digits
springing
for a few days.
Forward this weekend.
Yes.
That's it for us tonight.
Very good reminder.
Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you back here Monday.
We don't need beauty sleep.